Warning, this episode contains strong language.
So one particular night, he was there for maybe a week or two at a time. He had a young bass player who got overserved that night. And then he got angry and I guess mad at my dad or jealous or whatever. And so he picked a fight with my dad. And this young guy took a chair, like I'm like 13, I guess, he took a chair, threw it at my dad, and my dad ducked and it went through the lobby window of the hotel lobby where we were.
Holy
and broke
shit.
The window out. So needless to say, the cops came, arrested the bass player. The next morning we went to the jail. I'd never been in a jail, thank goodness, at 13. And there was the bass player, hungover, hair all messed up, peering out between the bars of his jail cell. And we took him his suitcase, all of his stuff. I think his mom was coming to get him or something. But the next night, I had the gig. Because the guy was in jail and lost his job, so I was in.
Welcome to the Lone Star Play Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Join me and a famous guest every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We discuss their career, life, food, Texas, and everything in between. Let's get started. All right, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Lone Star Play Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. All right, let's get to it. My guest today is Terry McBride. Yes, he's a legend in the country music industry. He famously toured with Brooks and Dunn. Yeah, know those guys? Yeah, I wrote a lot of songs for them and for a lot of people, okay? Really, a lot of people. And now he's out doing his own, and he's done his own music and played. He's a wonderful musician, songwriter, really just an all-around, right? This guy can do it all. He's out with a brand new album called Rebels and Angels. And so he's on to, talk about that. Talk about, the title track that's out, Rebels and Angels, and that's the name of the obviously the album. So there's a couple songs out. Album's coming out here at the end of October. And he's, talking about that. It's a really wonderful conversation. Terry is super funny. I had such a great time, and it gets emotional, to be honest with you. He talks about his sobriety and the struggles with that and some crazy stories, right, of that. And and a great story of how you heard it at the beginning, a little bit of the story, right? And that first clip, that's basically what that is, of how he got his first gig, at 13 years old. So a really great story, and a really great guy, really excited. So yeah, stick around for that. Okay, before we get to the episode, as always, don't forget, check us out online, and you can go to our website, thelonestarplate.com. Boom, from there you can get to everything. All right. And always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for supporting us. We really, really appreciate it. We appreciate all the comments, everybody writing in and that sort of thing. Thank you so much. All right, so let's just get to the episode. Terry McBride, the legend. All right, enjoy.
You look good.
You look good too. Look at that. Oh, your picture's perfect. The images.
Okay, I'll take it.
The quality's great.
Okay,
there we go.
Yeah, you're really clear and cool.
Okay, cool.
Good.
Well, I'm clear. I don't know how cool I am, but I'm here.
Oh, you're cool. I've been following. I checked up on your podcast. It's cool what you've been up to, man. You've been busy.
I tell you what, man, we have really put together quite a guest list over the past, 6 months, really. We've been working hard, 3 episodes. Yeah. We're going to have quite a catalog of Texas guests. I love it. I love bringing it all together.
Yeah, anything Texas related gets me interested already. So this is cool. I appreciate you having me on. And are you still down off of Congress Avenue? Where are you?
Yep, that's exactly where I'm at, right off of Congress and Ben White, basically, just right there, South Austin.
That area. I know it well. I moved into Austin out of high school. I grew up in Lampasas. And actually, I was born in Taylor, which, just down the road.
Yeah.
My dad was a musician. He was playing and singing in a big band back in those days in the very late 50s when I was born. But,
wow.
so yeah, I've been Lampasas, it was just back then, it was just about an hour drive to Austin. So, man, we could zip over and hear our favorite whatever and then be back home for 2-a-days football the next morning.
Oh, shit. You did 2-a-days football. Okay. I know that too. I played Texas football in middle school and my freshman year of high school, I think I tried to play. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I can't handle it. Yeah, brutal. I played hockey, actually. I ended up moving into hockey full-time in Texas. Man. I know. That's crazy. But the contact was still there. The contact was still there and everything. It was still, but you weren't outside in the heat for sometimes, but not, right? Like tech. Oh, my God. That is that's no joke. For people that don't know that, that is no.
I wasn't even a great player. I just had so many friends that played. I mean, I was fast with no talent. So it was just like, it was brutal for me. You know, it was just, I don't know what I was thinking. I got beat up worse in, practice than I did in the game even. It was a lot. And then in Texas, 2-a-days, of course, you get there, there's that thick layer of dew on that grass first thing in the morning. You're all padded up and it was just nonstop itching, sweating. I still can remember the pain of it, but looking back, it was fun. Yeah, I did it all the way through high school, man. I played basketball, football, ran a little track, and all that was in Lampasas.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So did you, when did you like personally get into music?
Well, I caught the bug early because, like I said, my dad was a musician. So it was just everywhere. We had musicians coming and going, a lot of rehearsing. My dad later built a nice, cool recording studio. So we had some world-class musicians, but my dad gave me a guitar when I was 9. Oh, wow. That set me on my path, to trying to be like my dad. When you're young, that age, you want to be a lot like your dad. I really looked up to my father at that time, of course, and wanted to be just like him. And then, so I started playing, learning, doing what I could. And then when I was about 12, my dad came to me. He saw maybe I had a little bit of talent, or certainly a desire there, way more desire probably than talent. But he came to me and said, man, here's the deal. You want to grow up and play with me? I need a bass player, So I went.
I love it. Recruiting. I love it. Recruiting already.
So I said, okay. And we went over to Callin, Texas, from near Fort Hood there. And we went to a pawn shop. And my dad found this little Ventura bass. It was like a Gibson SG copy, but a cheaper version of it. And I was hooked, man. I went from playing 6 strings to 4. I went, this is perfect for me, 2 less strings and I can be in a band, So I'd take my guitar and my bass on the road with my dad during the summer, and I would sit in. He had everything written out in these big chord charts, So I could literally jump in and play a dance, cocktail set, dinner music, whatever. It was all written out, Once I learned to read that, I was kind of on my way.
That's amazing. I mean, that is amazing. So you're like 12, 13, touring with your dad in the summer, playing bass in a band.
And dig this. My 8th grade summer, my parents were going through a divorce, and going through it, I mean, they divorced quickly. There was no real going through it. They parted. They made a conscious effort. This is over. Yeah. And so I ended up spending even more time with my dad because my mom split. I happened to grow up next door to my dad's parents. So my grandparents were next door. They literally raised me all through high school. And so I went out that summer with my dad, and I could play, I could read the charts, so I could kind of make my way. And I was getting better at it, getting good at it. And I think it was Baytown, Texas, Bay City. I cannot remember exactly, but back then, talking, early 70s, 73 or so, all nice hotels had a lounge and a lot of live music back in that day. They'd have my dad was old school. He would do impersonations. He'd do a floor show. And so I'd come up and do a little thing. So one particular night, he was there for maybe a week or 2 at a time. He had a young bass player who got overserved that night. And then he got angry and I guess mad at my dad or jealous or whatever. And so he picked a fight with my dad. And this young guy took a chair, like I'm like 13, I guess, he took a chair, threw it at my dad, and my dad ducked, and it went through the lobby window of the hotel lobby where we were.
Holy
and broke
shit.
the window out. So needless to say, the cops came, arrested the bass player. The next morning we went to the jail. I'd never been in a jail, thank goodness, at 13. And there was the bass player, hung over, hair all messed up, peering out between the bars of his jail cell. And we took him his suitcase, all of his stuff. I think his mom was coming to get him or something. But the next night I had the gig because the guy was in jail and lost his job. So I was in. So I played the whole summer with my dad at 13 and thought in my mind, I'm in the band. Of course, when my freshman year of high school started, my dad let me know that's not the case, but I was heartbroken. I thought, I did a good job. When I was 13, I looked like I was about 10 or 9. I was small and skinny and very youthful.
Yeah.
And I got in, and I had a lot of unusual experiences because of it early on.
I mean, this sounds like Almost Famous, right? I mean, from another perspective, but that's crazy. So you okay, kid throws a chair through the window. You think, okay, this is all I got to do to stay in a band. Just don't throw chairs through windows. I can do this.
Note to self.
To self. I love it. Man, what a great story. That's that's a phenomenal
It's crazy.
story.
And plus, I can remember the fear of seeing someone wanting to fight my dad. That was so scary in the moment.
Yeah, totally.
It was not a normal night, even for me as a young person, underage in a bar, which I spent most of my life in that sort of setting. No telling how much secondhand smoke I inhaled during those days. But my parents and my dad especially would haul me around all over the place. And I loved it, of course, but maybe not the best environment. But that was one of the more unusual, scary kind of situations that happened. And the kid was a good kid. Like a lot of people, he jacked up on alcohol, he turned into somebody else. And it was shocking. I mean, even the next day going to the jail, it was a lot, but I took it in. I played through his amp, used his cable for the rest of that run until he got his amp back to me. Then I had a cool tuck and roll custom amp. I had my own amp back then, a blue sparkle custom amp. And then I put that in with the band, and we went on. We did I remember we played some officers clubs that summer, and my dad did a variety of things because he was old school impersonations. He was a great yodeler. He grew up on Jimmy Rogers.
Wow.
And, he was a very accomplished yodeler. That was, he was born in 36, graduated in 55. And he was also a master at that Scotty Moore guitar. He was like the Central Texas Elvis. He could play that guitar stuff.
Oh, wow.
And do a good Elvis. And so he was a very successful regional kind of act. But we had our own tour bus later in high school, and that cool studio. Lots of, like I said, world-class musicians. I met Reese Winan, who at the time was playing with Delbert McClinton, but later went on to play with Stevie Ray Vaughan. And Reese just kind of took me in. He's like, man, you're good, and I know a gig that you'd be good for. And he got me a cocktail gig at the Hyatt Regency right downtown Austin on Town Lake there,
Wow, yeah.
where it's at. And me, Reese, Ernie Durawa, a great drummer that was with the Texas Tornadoes, and we played a cocktail gig with this guy, Carl Hutchins, who was a school teacher and then country singer by night at the Hyatt Hotel. And we backed him up by the waterfall next to the glass elevator. That's where we set up every night.
I love that. That is awesome.
5 nights a week, 5 to 9. And then Reese put a band together kind of around me, featuring me. And then we'd go play 10 to 2, 5 to 9, then 10 to 2. You could almost make a living in Austin, Texas back then. That was probably about 1984, maybe,
Wow.
Wonderful experience. And it just sort of launched me into a bigger, better level of musicians other than just the club guys that I had been playing with. He also introduced me to Leroy Parnell, and played with Leroy for a while and a lot of people. Then later Delbert. Then later I played bass with Delbert for a couple years.
Yeah.
And went on and then met Bill Carter from Austin and Ruth Ellsworth, a great songwriting team. They took me in. I auditioned for Bill's band. And I got the gig. The next day we left and went out on this amazing tour opening for Stevie Ray Vaughan all the way up to New York City and back. You know, It was just, I was a huge Stevie fan, so it was kind of mind blowing, you know.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
We would sit in at night and play Crossfire with Stevie because Bill and Ruth co-wrote that. And it was just more than I could handle almost. It was so amazing. It was just one of those wonderful.
Totally.
I'm so glad I'm in this situation, you know. To take
You're like, don't throw a chair through a window right now.
Whatever I do. Thank God I was sober at that point. I had come out of a drunken haze of about 2 or 3 or more years. I'd finally kind of gotten my shit together. Enough to keep a gig anyway, and was focusing on songwriting, and that really opened a lot of doors. So I just kind of stayed on that path for quite a while, about 17 years before I veered off and went back and really went into another spiral that was crazy. And then now I'm sober again for 10 years. So
that's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thanks, man. It's good. It's been a struggle, but I've lived to tell about it, and that's kind of the best part of it, you know.
I understand. Look, I'm honest. You know, I've had my own struggle with alcohol. Nothing that ever got too intense where nobody had to intervene or get help. But I knew I had a problem where I was drinking too much, and it was, you know, it was just devastating to my life, to be honest with you.
Well, I admire people who can admit that and understand they have a problem, you know.
For sure.
Because sorry,
please.
I've got some call. I have this on some sort of silence, so I don't know why it's doing that.
Don't even sweat it, you know. Please, that's the last thing we need to worry about.
We're talking about alcohol here, Dan.
Totally right. Like
we got bigger problems than a phone call.
Yeah, I'm with you though. You know, it is important to make that first step of, you know, admitting you have a problem, and because you're never going to get to the finish line if you don't start the race to get there, right? To get sober, or you gotta start that race. You gotta admit it. You gotta jump in and say, this is it. This is what's happening. And at that point is different for everybody.
That's right. At
that point,
you're
just a
different
exactly
journey. Right. I mean, I went to rehab, and admitting it was the first step, exactly like you're saying. And, you know, when you're in that I was in that place where an intervention was about to happen. I was acting out and in front of people. Fortunately, no one got hurt and nothing really bad happened. It certainly could have. But so I went, and I had to, agree and admit that I had a problem. And then I had to prove that I wanted to do something more than just talk about it. I had to really take some action. I didn't want to go to rehab, but I did it. And then, like you said, when you get in there, you realize everybody has a problem. Everybody has an addiction, but no two people have the same addiction or the same way that they got to it. You know, How did we get here? No two paths are exactly the same. They do involve alcohol, drugs, that sort of thing. We do have that in common, but everybody's story is different, you know. And and once I got in there, I wanted to kind of find out, why am I doing these things? What is causing, you know, why am I acting out like this? And of course, it's a lot. It goes all the way back to problems and, you know, self-medicating, and, you know, you have to come and face a lot of things that aren't pretty and talk about things you really don't want to, that you've been not talking about and avoiding and hiding for years. So it's a process, but I came out the other side of it feeling good, and I got to keep my family and most of my stuff too. So
that's awesome.
It was really good. Of course, the family is the most important thing, and they helped me through it. But so many of my friends were not so lucky, you know. I mean, it's this business has a way of taking its toll. You know, you're gone for a lot of your career, and families, that's tough. It's tough to juggle and balance. And if you don't have a lot of help doing it, then you can get lost along the way, and so many people do.
Do you think that's why so many people in the industry, you know, get caught up in these sort of things, the partying around? I mean, I guess it's just a part of the lifestyle in a way, right? People see that as the stereotype of a musician, traveling musician, you know, on tour. Like that's what they do.
But it's true though. You're right. I mean, it's accessible. It's everywhere. It's if you have any kind of inkling and you know, personality or addictive behavior, traits or whatever, you can go down that path real quick, and you can find plenty of people to take with you along the way,
That's it right there. I think that's a big thing right there, right? Like, you're not going alone. We'll come with you. Like,
now,
great.
you can almost be a social outcast by being straight. That would be hard, for a young person that has a few morals that maybe I didn't, and a few qualities that I maybe wish I had. It could be hard on someone like that. It would really show who you are. And I admire people like that, truly. I see them to this day that they want to talk about my experience because they just have never had it. And it's just, it's great that somebody didn't go down that path, because I knew so many who did, and lots of musicians. In the beginning, it's a lot of learning and wanting, but in the beginning, there's no money, there's no glory, no big spotlight on anything. It's like, even with Leroy Parnell, he was just getting started. He wasn't an act yet. He was just a local guy that was disciplined in writing, and I admired that about him. But it was a lot of bad weddings and just gigs that were not great, and that tend to leave you bored, and boredom tends to bring on, problems for people. And alcohol is one way to sort of fill in a little space that otherwise you'd just be, bored, not doing anything. So I get it. I'm just glad I've gotten to the point where I'm on the other side of it now, and can help in whatever way I can. I've talked about it openly. I have no problems. And I really love seeing people have a good time. I have no problem with anybody drinking. I think it's those that can do it, man, I'm just so admire that sort of quality so much. My wife.
Most people can't do it. They just continue to do it, right? That's what I think it is.
Yeah, good point. It's just a slippery slope. You're having fun. Then now we're having too much fun. Now we've caused some problems. Now I've got to apologize. Now I'm embarrassed. Now I've got anxiety. Oh, it's so exhausting just thinking about it. That alone kind of keeps me straight from that type of thing. Alcohol especially is just it can be brutal when you go about it like I was. It's so much fun, and then all of a sudden it's not fun anymore at all. It's like we had fun right up until we didn't. It's one of those kind of things. But unfortunately, man, it was starting to, and when that starts to become a pattern, then you got a problem, dang it. But, we could talk about that all day, and those that know, and what wore me out a little bit, and, AA is a wonderful thing, but just the war stories sometimes are like, oh, it was, I get it. You need to get that out, but we all have those if you've been through it. It's tough. Like you said early on, no two situations are exactly the same. Even if you're talking about alcohol, it's different. Yeah. And what got you there is really what's different.
Yeah, absolutely. And what your drink of choice is, I think that has a lot to do with it too, right? Like everybody's got their own sort of vice in that way. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Tequila for me, it's like, why mess around if you're going to get drunk? Let's go right.
I love tequila.
Oh, I love it. And then there are so many great tequilas, like back in the day you had Jose Cuervo, and that was it. If you want, so tequila always got a bad rap. It wasn't good, but along the way they refined, and they've found ways to make it in such a better way, and aging process, like with some fine bourbon. It's just unbelievable. So I got hooked on that, and it was just so much fun, of course, and I spent 13 years on the road with Brooks and Dunn, and for 10 of those years I was just on the bus writing songs. I had no real responsibilities. My only responsibility was to be on the bus as it's leaving. That's all I had to time out. So all that time in between, I could do whatever the hell I wanted to do. I did. I did. And then finally, eventually, made my way to the bus. Sometimes as it was rolling and they were threatening to leave me. You're
running along the side of it, just like,
and usually in just my underwear at that point, so.
They're like, oh, here comes McBride again.
I literally remember waking up some mornings and the bottoms of my feet would be black because I was like partially naked out in the parking lot. Oh, it was not good. One of those nights, and I'll share this with you. I was in my bunk, really, really drunk, a heartburn already. I think I'm dying. And I woke up that morning feeling so bad, so rough. And I got a text. But what had happened before I went to bed, I sent this text off to my wife, some, half nasty. Oh, if you were here, take me what I'd be doing to you right now. It was just over the top, ridiculous, misspelling, words left out. Oh my God. So I wake up that morning, I'm feeling bad already. It's going to be a long day. And I get a text message from the rep from the Ampeg company who gives me all my amplifiers. At that time, I was playing bass with Brooks and Dunn the last 3 years. I played bass with them. And it was this guy, Ted Kornblum, who works with ZZ Top, all these wonderful musicians, and he was also working with me. And I woke up to, hey, Terry, who's Kathy? I think I love her too, he said. And I went, oh no, I had sent my message to my wife, to my Ampeg rep instead.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a long day, and that was just like one of many, unfortunately, on the road like that.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I've been there. Oh my gosh. Yes.
So
it's nothing.
people. Yeah.
Nothing like that, but
Really, I was glad it was him and not my aunt or something like that.
Right.
Really, because he just laughed it off and went, "Man, you crazy,"
Sure. God, that's you know what? But what it's great to see is where you're at now and how you can talk about it and how these stories help people. These stories help people make a right. If they're on the edge or if they're on it's like, dude, I can get there and have a good life, because I think that's a fear too when you're stuck in that world. What else is there for me? Yeah. There is another life. There is a better life, way better life.
Yeah, just physically for me, in my age, I sleep better. I was really struggling with that.
You probably eat better. You probably eat better now, right?
Everything is just, and it's so easy to say now, when you're struggling with it, you can't see it. You can't see the other side because you're so stuck in it, But what, rehab did, what it helped me the most with was it just gave me a break from it. And 28 days later, you really start to see things. Now, what you do with it when you move on from there is up to you. But that portion alone, it gave me the much needed break to kind of clear my head a little bit, take a break from that lifestyle for a little bit. Because, we were going to like with those guys like Brooks and Dunn, we played the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas, which Vegas is on 10, cranked up to whatever anyway on a good night.
God. Yeah.
And you bring about, 50,000 cowboys into the mix, and all of a sudden you got a party at every corner and inappropriate behavior at every casino. It's just waiting for you,
Yeah.
So that's a tough thing to maneuver through, and I can do it now, and I kind of enjoy it. Well, I tell people all those years I was completely out of control, and it was fun, and I'm an up kind of guy, so I never had a problem with getting into a lot of trouble, because usually it was a lot of laughs and a lot of fun, just a lot of alcohol. But now I enjoy being in control, which is a good feeling, when I can, even in my little house here where I write, I have a little bar, I'm not afraid. I'm not, white knuckled in the morning, fearful that anything can happen in life, but I like, knowing that I'm in control, and that kind of gets me, as they say, one day at a time through it.
That's awesome, man. This is so inspiring to hear. To be frank, it's serious.
Oh
it's
man.
Awesome.
Well, it's turned into a different podcast all of a sudden, but I appreciate you.
Not at all. Are you kidding me?
This is rolling with me.
This is what podcasts are for,
Well, I love that about it, and I've listened in on several. You've had several of my friends on there, Georgia Dukas and Kyle Park.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and even Kinky Friedman, who I've met along the way. That's interesting, and I knew that was going to be interesting. But several people. Rudy Gatlin, I've known the Gatlins.
Rudy was hilarious, man. Rudy was like so funny.
He is a funny guy, and saw him recently. We went out and did a country music cruise back in February. Really, one of the last things I did. And,
oh wow!
It was great. It was really cool. It was a lot of older artists, but I went along with a friend, Wynn Varble, and we hosted a songwriter series every night. And we started out with a small crowd, but boy, by about night 3, we had the biggest crowd on the ship. You know, people, a lot of them had not experienced that sort of songwriter storytelling kind of vibe, you know.
That's awesome.
And we also had people like Randy Owen from Alabama would join us one night, and
Wow.
that didn't suck either.
Yeah.
He had amazing stories, and next thing you know, we're singing along to "Feel So Right" and things like that. It was pretty amazing, you know. But
Wow.
yeah, it's all been good. But the Gatlins were on that, and dig this. Here's a funny story. I was having dinner, you know, there on the ship, and I could see these two women at the other table. I'm with Win Varble, this other songwriter from Nashville, great songwriter, and two girls are staring and talking, and I was going, oh boy, you know, somebody recognizes me, you know, and so they're going to come over, and they did. And so she's talking to me, and Wynn goes, hey, I'm going to head on back to the room. I said, okay. And she's going, gosh, I've just been wanting to meet you for so long, you know, and I just hope I'm not bothering you. I said, oh, no, hey, let's get a picture. And as she's talking, and she goes, well, you know, I already got the brothers, Steve and Rudy, already got their picture. So I went, oh, no. She thinks I'm Larry Gatlin. Oh, my God.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah. The price of fame, it comes with a certain cost, and it's a humbling experience.
How do you handle something like that? Because, I mean, what do you do? What do you say?
Oh, I think I made up some stories about Rudy. One of them was adopted, I said, and I just rolled with it. You know, I felt bad for her and me at that point.
Oh, that's exactly what I would do. Just roll with it and make shit up. I
hated to, you know, then later she's going to see Larry on the ship and go, that doesn't look at all like the Larry I just met.
No, that's awesome.
Oh, dang it. I know it.
That's crazy. Oh, God, that's a funny story. So you said that was one of the last things you did before the lockdown, right? So what is it like now, not being able to, because you got a new album coming out. We got to mention that, okay? Rebels and Angels. Yeah, we got to talk about this new album. Okay, we got to talk about this.
That'd be great.
You know, a new album coming out, right? And what's crazy is, right, this whole pandemic, global thing hits, right? Touring, going out, promoting.
Yeah.
You must have had a plan in place. So, like, just talk to us about that, how all this is going down here.
Well, we did. Fortunately, we did have a plan in place, and it was built around releasing this record. And there's so much that goes into trying to get a little team together because, you know, everybody's releasing music, especially where you're at, where I'm at here in Nashville. Yeah. And although I spend a lot of my time in Texas, I've got a great little fan base down there, and I love that. And actually, I just released my first Texas radio single yesterday, which is exciting because we already have stations playing it. And a great station in Austin, Texas is on it, and that's very exciting. But fortunately, with the shutdown, with everything that wasn't happening, we were able to focus on this record. And we thought, well, we'll take advantage of that. The timing is good. And it was. And we did a couple of cool things. We were able to film a couple of things, which didn't involve a lot of people and no crowds at all, just a couple of small crew, that sort of thing. Things that we knew that would help move the record along and some things to talk about. Yeah, but my very last show was out at Sundance out in Utah with Robert Redford's resort out there. We did a Bluebird songwriter series that was fantastic. Leslie Satcher, Marv Green, and myself, great songwriters.
Wow.
Fantastic crowd. 2 shows a night. We did 2 shows total, about 300 people each night. It was just fantastic. And that lodge it was unbelievable. And the people were fantastic. So when that happened, literally after that, the COVID showed up and we knew it wasn't going to be good. And so we just put our attention and focused on the record. And because of that, we're getting a lot accomplished. We've got I have a duet that's getting some streaming that I really haven't had a lot of that in the past. This is a cool new thing that's happening with this album and these new singles. And that's a duet with Patty Loveless, and that's created a lot of interest. And a good song that I wrote with Chris Stapleton, and I always loved that song and knew it could be something cool. And then when Patty got involved, of course, it became something really cool, you know.
This is you're talking about Rebels and Angels, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Rebels and Angels. That single. So that's the name of the album, and this is the title track, right?
That's it. That's the title cut of the new album.
I listened to the song. I listened to the song. It's amazing. Yes, I do want you to tell us when the album comes out, but I just want to tell you how much I love the song. I listened to it 4 times in a row. No shit. No shit.
Man.
I heard it once and I was like, okay. I hit it again. And then it was just like, well, I'm just going to keep it going until I got to go somewhere. And that's what happened. So
man, that's so good to hear.
That song is killer. I mean, killer. Yeah, I loved it.
Thank you so much, man. You know, I had lived with that song for a while because I wrote it a few years ago. And I knew in my heart and in my mind, this song will never get recorded. One, it's a waltz for starters. And
I like that.
Well, and it's so country. It's such a throwback that it almost makes the song interesting because there's not a lot of anything out there like that anymore. But, and then having Patty, my favorite part is when I finish the first chorus, then the song modulates with that big fiddle turnaround. Oh, I love that section so much because what's about to happen, we're going into a different key so Patty can start singing her verse, you know. Then she
sounds amazing.
She kind of comes out of nowhere. And like you said, she sounds amazing, you know.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It kind of makes me angry that it's so good. It's so good. I'm angry. It's like, what the hell? This is, it's amazing. I mean, it's just such a great song. So you said you wrote it with Chris Stapleton, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm a big fan of his, big fan of his as well. So that's awesome. Yeah. You guys have worked together a lot though, right?
Yeah, we used to write a lot. That he got discovered and it's changed everything, you know. But in the day when I met him, he hadn't had anything really happening yet. He was just kind of getting a little buzz because he was so interesting and good. His vocals were really cool, you know. So he came over to the house. I had never met him, but I liked him. He was so different. Then our song kind of came together. And then when he started singing, doggone it. And he told me that night, he goes, man, I'm playing a little club right down here where I live in Franklin, Tennessee. And, I never want to get out at night when it's late, but I was so taken with him that I got up that night, went down, and he never forgot that. He is like, man, he couldn't believe I came out. And then we kind of hit it off after that. I have a lot of different instruments that he loves to play.
Wow.
We started getting a few songs cut. We'd get songs cut just from his work tape. He sounded so good. Like Alan Jackson, back in the day, like James Otto, Gretchen Wilson, people like that, Wow. And then we just got a song cut 2 weeks ago by Trace Adkins. It's a song I wrote with Ronnie Dunn and Chris Stapleton 11 years ago, and Trace just cut it.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's awesome, right? Yeah, you're like, pull one out of the vault, sell this baby.
A song nobody remembers, and it finally found a home. I've had a couple cuts with Trace. He's a great guy. My last song that he cut, this tells you a little bit about Trace Adkins. He called me. Of course, he's got that voice that just sounds like, God talking to you or whatever you can imagine. Or whatever God's voice might be. It's so big and powerful. Even over your...
I think you're right.
Even over your iPhone, it's something special going on. Your phone's rumbling. He's got hitting levels that nobody hits. And he called and left me a message because I didn't recognize the number. I didn't have his number in there at that time. But he called and he goes, Terry, he goes, I cut a song years ago. He goes, it's so good. I can't believe you wrote it, he said. That says a little bit about him. He's a great guy. Everybody likes Trace. They always have. He's just a good guy, and he has a huge following because of it.
No, that's awesome. That's so amazing to get to be a songwriter as well, not just a singer, right? And get these and work with all these great, amazing people. And that's amazing. When you write a song, I have a couple of questions about this song. One, I guess one part is, that song was 11 years ago. So I guess songs have these journeys, right? So you never know when you write a song where this is going to go. But do you ever write a song with a particular artist in mind?
Well, not often, but when I first started coming to Nashville, being from Texas, growing up there, we wanted, and I say we, me, Bill, and Ruth at that time were writing these cool country songs. I'd been making trips to Nashville, not getting a lot done, but with them, they elevated my level of writing. We had several what we thought were really good songs, and we were starting to get some feedback and some buzz about it. So they sent the demos up here to Nashville to a guy named Jody Williams, who was working at BMI back then. I didn't know Jody, but he just took it upon himself to go, man, whoever's singing these demos, he needs a record deal, is what he told Bill and Rick. We went, man, that's great. We're going to be there in town anyway. Get us a deal, you know. But we wanted in our hearts, we wanted a George Strait cut. That's what we were headed, you know. We're going to set the bar high, but dang it, we wanted George Strait. So over the years, in my second cut ever as a songwriter, my first was John Anderson, and then the second was George Strait. It was a song I wrote with Jim Lauderdale.
That's awesome.
So that was literally like a dream come true. I had wished it and dreamed about it, and you have no idea if that will ever happen. And many a great songwriter in town has never had a George Strait, and I've ended up with a couple. And so after that, I would write songs for George, and he would always take one. Came close to getting several cuts, but I did have the title of his album called Always Never the Same. That's a song that I wrote. And at the time, they thought it was going to be a huge single. It wasn't, damn it. But we did get the cut. It was the title cut. But those kind of moments are just so big, it's hard to even put it into words, because when you dreamed and lived music your whole life, I've had this, you know, I'm 62 now, which is shocking to even think that. But I've had this love affair with music since I've been about 9, you know, and it's meant so much to me. It can break your heart too. But then there are moments like that where it can just turn the whole thing around, and you realize why you're in it, why you do it. And it's really not for the fame or the money. It's just being recognized for something you created is such a wonderful feeling, especially by someone that you admire and you respect to that degree, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you feel legitimized in some sense? Well,
it's just so good to be able, when I first came to town, people go, well, what have you done? And it's like, nothing. I've done nothing, you know? They're like, will you listen to my songs? Well, what have you done? Nothing. I haven't done a single thing. No one's recorded anything I've ever written. No one's even writing with me. I'm writing all these songs by myself. I haven't even made it up to the level of writing with someone else, but I was expecting a deal, you know, and it didn't come. I had good ideas. I had some talent. I just didn't have great songs. And I'm coming to a town where it was built on great songs and songwriters, you know, and artists that recorded them. So I went from, you know, junior high B team trying to get into the pros, you know. It was
how do you become a better songwriter, you know, for someone out there, right, who's a starting artist? Maybe they're just starting to write songs, or maybe they're been doing it a long time like you, and just still there. What do you know, what steps, what do you do to become a better songwriter? Is there a book you buy?
There probably are. I think a great way to learn is, especially here, there are lots of, and there used to be, we'll get back to that at some point, so many venues where there's a focus on the songwriter. You can literally go to the Bluebird wherever you want, and you can hear your favorite song sung by the person who wrote it. And that's a powerful moment, you know, whether it's a performance that's different from the artist that cut it, hearing the person that created it, wrote it, created that melody, that's powerful. That alone will inspire you to want to be better, you know. Then it's the process of continuing to do it. You know, you have to work at it. And then being able to edit yourself is a tough one, you know, where you get out of that place where everything I've written is great, you know, because it's not great, especially in the beginning. It's not even good, you know. You've got to keep going. You got to keep working at it. You got to get better, or you never will be better. I think that makes sense, doesn't it? You got to work. You got to work at it, or you'll never ever get better. And there are a lot of people that make that mistake. They kind of, not that they're even full of themselves, they just think everything they've written is great. Oh, I love it, you know. And you start making some progress. I get it. You know, I'm sure I was the same way. I know I was. I recently heard some demos from the 80s, and it's shocking at how average they are. You know, the ideas, the lines have been said before. It's nothing new, you know, nothing edgy. And then eventually it did start leaning that direction, but that was all a process. Took a lot of frustration trying to record with a little 4-track, trying to program drums. Then I tried to play all the instruments, and it was a lot, you know. But like I said, when I met better songwriters and they slowly took me in, it was intimidating, yes, but I learned so much, and it really elevated, it pushed me, just like an athlete or anything else. You get around a great athlete, man, it can make you step up your game. And that's kind of what my very first co-write in Nashville, of course, grew up in the Austin area, loved the progressive country thing was on fire when I was in high school. And Jerry Jeff Walker, guys like that, you know, Doug Somm, Rusty Weir, Ray Wiley Hubbard, Gary P. Nunn, just went on and on. They were all living and breathing in Austin, Texas. We could drive down there in high school, go to Armadillo World headquarters, and there they were on Friday or Saturday night. You know, it was unbelievable. But a lot of those songs were written by Guy Clark, who I wasn't even sure who that was when I was in high school. I just started seeing his name popping up on songs I liked. Desperados, Waiting for a Train, LA Freeway, you know, whatever. Rita Ballou, love that song. And so my very first, I got my deal at MCA. They signed me. A young girl who's going to take on my daily scheduling. And so she goes, I've got you lined up. My first co-write was with Guy Clark, of all the people, you know.
Wow.
And oh man, I didn't sleep for days. I worked on ideas. I was so nervous, and he's kind of a hulk of a guy. He's a big guy. And I kind of gurmed him and told him how great he was. He's like, fuck that. You know, he didn't want to hear any of that. And then he liked this idea I had, and he kind of just automatically made me feel welcomed and like, you can do this, you know, you got a good idea here. And then he said, let me take this home and work on it. But before he did that, you know, I'm nervous. I'm trying to get over being in the room with Guy Clark, a true hero of mine. And then he goes, hey man, he goes, you want to get high? And I said, yes, sir. And so now I'm high with Guy, you know. It's like, oh my God, I'm paranoid. I got a million things going through my head. Oh my God.
Absolutely.
And then he graciously went, let me take this home. Then he started inviting me out to his house, his little place where he was living, where he had his shop. He had a cool little woodworking shop where he was building guitars, and he liked to write there, and had cassettes and all of his woodworking stuff on one wall, guitars on the other wall he had built from handmade.
Oh wow.
And it was a wonderful experience. I could never relax. I was just in awe of him. We wrote a couple of cool things. I never wrote the classic great Guy Clark songs on all of his albums. I wish I had. He's one of those guys, he was just too big for me in the room. And I knew in the back of my mind, guys like that, he doesn't need someone like me to write a great song. He wrote most of those by himself, a lot of them, you know. But he was doing me a favor. I had a deal. I'm from Texas. This is going to be we should meet, you know, the label guy. He's in Nashville trying to make a living, you know. And so, but it turned into more than that. I ended up bringing other young artists over to meet him, which he really loved, and a couple that he really hit it off with. But
that's cool. That's really cool.
A young guy from Australia named Jed Hughes, who is a phenomenal musician. He plays on a lot of.
Why is there a lot of Australians that play country music?
You know, it's alive and well over there. I mean, I went and toured there with Brooks and Dunn, and it's a big part of music.
Yeah,
they remind me of Texans in a way. They're rowdy, drinking, music loving.
Love Australians, man. Yeah, I love Australians.
Yeah. Oh, we were there for 15 days, and it was phenomenal. I loved it, man. But that particular kid, Jed, I met him when he was 19, and he's played on amazing albums, songs, hit records. He was an artist. I produced a record on him at MCA. But one of the first things I thought was, man, you need to know someone like Guy Clark, you know? So I took him over there, and they just hit it off. The guy just fell in love with him, but mainly because of his talent. His guitar skills were off the charts. He was phenomenal. And he still is. He's about 37. He was 19 when I met him. But yeah, I've always been like that, especially with someone like Guy. If I'm mentoring or if I'm helping someone, helping get them in the room with someone like that's somebody you need to know, you know?
Well, I think it's part of the industry, right? You're helping each other. I think that's, keeps it going. I think that's phenomenal. When you're writing a song with people like that, or anybody really, Do you think it's, especially if you're starting out, do you think it's important to put your ideas out or stay back in the, shadows and listen and kind of,
Oh,
or do you think, you know what, just throw it out. If they're going to trash it, they trash it, but we move on, right? At least I know that's no good and I can focus on something else. I mean, I'm asking for other struggling songwriters out there who are like,
well,
do I keep my mouth
that's
shut? Right. Do I just go get food?
yeah.
What am I here for? Right. Or do you just say, go for it?
That's a really good question. And the answer is it's all of the above. It really is. In the beginning, it's very intimidating. I got to write because I had a record deal. I got to write with some legendary people that I had admired, songs that I grew up with that were, Grammy award winning, whatever. And then all of a sudden it's just you and this guy in their office somewhere,
Wow.
Woo,
Wow.
the door is shut and it's, you want to run. Part of you is like, I don't know. I don't think I can do this,
Yeah. Oh,
then,
God. I can't imagine.
Then
but you're there for a reason,
You're there for a reason. I always tried to come prepared, whether the idea ended up sticking or not. But I always tried to have, like with Guy, I bet I had 5 ideas that day. A good one, an okay one, 2 that sucked and whatever, I had to have a backup plan because I was so intimidated by him, And it's a lot like that. Some days you have a little thought in your head and go, oh, this is so bad. And a lot of my writer friends will say that. They'll go, listen, this may sound stupid, but I want to throw this out there, And a lot of times you'll be surprised how many times that's the line that actually works, because it comes from sort of an honest, real place. It's not all twisted and shaped to make it work. It's just like, this could work, that's something I wish I had said. That's when you're in the right direction, but it's tough though. It's a strange business where a lot of times you'll go in the room and you're just meeting this person for the first time. So it's like, hey, how you doing? Now let's sit down and pour our hearts out to each other. It's a strange process and it is intimidating. I'm a people person. I'm an outgoing guy. So that's not a real big problem, but now I have to also step it up with a damn good idea or I'm wasting a really good songwriter's time. I got to get the most of this moment, make the most of it. I got to try and keep pulling up my end of the deal here and pull my weight and make it happen. And it's different every time, man. There's no one way to do it. It's a crazy thing. Even though I've had success, I've written big songs, but you start over every time you open the door and walk in that room,
Oh, that's crazy. That's
crazy to think about. Crazy. It's crazy. I mean, you can pull from what you know, but you can't go back and use the lines you've already used. You gotta start fresh. You gotta assemble and juggle, and it's a puzzle, and you gotta hope you can piece it all together.
Are you always looking for you mentioned this before when you were speaking about writing a song, like something new, right? So are you always trying to create something new, a new story, something that hasn't been told before? Is that really your goal?
Well, I think that definitely it helps. I mean, to maybe because you've heard that where it's like you'll hear a song go, dang, that's good. That's either a good spin on a phrase that's worded completely. I would have never thought of that or whatever.
Yeah.
Those ideas you're constantly searching and hoping. And of course I have files and files of ideas and things that I've stored. And then I'll go back and look at them sometime and go, oh my God, that's so bad. I wouldn't even suggest that to anyone. At the time you thought you're on the verge of writing the next whatever, and it's like, oh my God, that's embarrassing. Then you'll hear somebody else come up with it and have a hit on it about a year later and go, damn it, why didn't I speak up? But yeah, it's a process, never ending, of trying to, you overhear someone say something, or you think you do, or whatever. I've read things and even taken it and moved it around and reshaped and that sort of thing. Whatever. You never know. Or sometimes it's just a cool lick. I love guitar licks. I had a song with the Brooks and Dunn called "Play Something Country." Excuse me. And it all started and revolved around a guitar lick. That's the way it was.
That's cool.
Sometimes that can get you going. You just never know where the song and how it's going to start.
I think that's fascinating. I always love talking to every artist about how that process is, and everything, because it's different for everybody. I just find it fascinating. just because it's something I can never do, so I'm
Oh,
creative in other ways,
yeah.
but that is just something so fascinating to me.
Well, thank goodness, because everybody here thinks they're a songwriter. I mean, it's like, I remember I moved to Nashville, and this young guy was spraying for bugs at my house, and he goes, "Yeah, Terry, we came here for the same reason." I went, "What, to kill cockroaches? What is it?" I don't get it. He's like, "No, I'm a songwriter." I went, "Oh, no."
You're like, how's it going? Yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, I know. Strange.
Well, maybe, you got to start somewhere, right? You got to.
That's it. He was willing to get out and work, so I admire him for that. A lot of guys think they don't have to work. It's just going to all happen for me. At least he was out there paying his bills until it did, Absolutely,
of course. Well, you probably write so many songs, you don't know what's sticking. And I'm sure the more, as you get more successful, there's more opportunities, right? You're going to get more at bats, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
the town, here, as far as, I keep saying here, I live outside of Nashville, but I moved up back in 91. So I've been here for a long time, half of my life in Texas, half of it here in Tennessee. So, and then I spend most of my time touring and heading back to Texas, but it all works out great. But it's been an interesting journey and a ride for me. I mean, just the whole thing, having a little success. Yes. Once you do, then you do get some attention, and everybody wants that in your business and what you're doing, and especially in this business, you want to get recognized. And now I'm so far on the other side of that. I've done all that. I'm still having some success, but I'm not the hottest guy in town anymore. I don't think I was never really the hottest guy. Even when I was having a lot of success, there are just a handful of those guys every year, every generation, that they have their finger on the pulse of whatever works on radio. They just do. And they work hard at it. They're driven by it. I probably wasn't as driven by that. I'm more of a musician at heart. And then I always had a love for writing. I've been doing that most of my life. That was my goal for sure. But I just was never fueled. My starving musician phase lasted way longer than I thought it was going to. I was living in Austin in my late 20s going, I don't know what I'm going to do. All my friends had already gone on to college. They had jobs, careers, I'm still kicking around trying to tell people I'm this close to almost doing something. Just didn't sound that exciting. I mean, it's like, I remember I tried to get a loan for a car. My car had blown up on I-35.
Oh my God.
Had a hand-me-down Buick Electra or something for my father-in-law. And I think I just put new tires on it. And I was coming back from working out, and I was getting ready to get off of my exit, like Old Torf or whatever there, where I was living at the time. And every idiot light on the dash panel came on. Like, you are fucked at this moment. Because I mean, it did not look good.
That's
smoke and every light on your dash is not a good one. So I limped my way over, grabbed my little bag or whatever I had, kicked the door shut, and that's the last time I ever saw that car. They hauled it off for scrap, I'm sure, later. But I tried to get a loan for a car, like a used car. I'm talking used, And I remember my banker at the time was like, yeah, I'd been signed to MCA. I already been signed to one of the biggest record labels in the world. And my banker's like, yeah, man, Terry, this all sounds good, but I don't get it, I was like, and they wouldn't loan me any money because of it. I was a bad bet. Yeah, they wouldn't even loan me. I think it's like $8,000 I was trying to get. Couldn't even get a loan for it.
That sounds like a Coen Brothers scene right there. Right there. You're at the bank, you're explaining it, and then Terry, I just don't get it. Right?
I don't get it. Like Tony Brown, he was producing like George Strait, Vince Gill, Patty Loveless. I had a whole, I had a plan going in, and man, they just shot it down. And this was my little hometown where I'd grown up, mind you, where everybody knew me. And it's like, man, this sounds good, Terry, but I just don't understand it. I don't know that we can, bank on that alone. I went. So Leroy Parnell turned me on to this woman, Lisa Harless, who's still my banker 30 years later.
Wow.
I called her out of the blue from Austin, Texas, and she goes, Terry, now let me get this straight. You're signed to MCA. You're working with Tony Brown. She goes, how much money do you need? And I went, Fantastic. So she wired
Thank
me
you.
the money overnight to me. I'd never even met her yet.
Look at this. That's how you do it. That's boss move right there. That is boss.
She won me over, and I just met with her recently.
That would win me over too. That would win me
Yeah.
over. You send me, so you wire me some money. You got. I'm in. And
I was struggling, man. I didn't know where am I going to go. You know, I mean, I'm trying to get a couple things that are slowly starting to line up for me.
Yeah.
But because I'd come out of that world of making $75 to $100 a night, playing on 6th Street and 3 or 4 different bands at the same time, and some great musicians, wonderful people, but just a real struggling environment. You know, it helped make me become a good player, no doubt. All the work and the other good players around me, but there was just no real way. Even touring with Delbert, gosh, we were opening for Huey Lewis in 1986, the biggest tour.
Oh, no shit. Yeah. Really? Oh, my.
Huey was the king. When I met Delbert,
Huey Lewis, and then, oh, my God.
He had the Tower of Power horn section out with him on tour. That tour was called the 4 Tour. That was the huge, coming off of all the Back to the Future and all those big songs. I mean, Huey was the biggest pop star in the world at that particular moment. Yeah. But when I met Delbert, I auditioned in his living room. Then we moved to a studio. Then one day later, I was in Miami. We were opening for John Fogerty. I literally went from Delbert's living room to opening for John Fogerty for 30 days. Then we did Huey Lewis for I don't know how many days. It was just amazing. Big arenas all over the country, all the way out to the West Coast and back. And we'd play parties, rap parties in Los Angeles for Dan Aykroyd. We played the world premiere party for the Dragnet movie. Tom Hanks, Dan Aykroyd.
What?
Yeah, Delbert did amazing things like that, and he drew a incredibly.
I just watched that movie.
Did you really?
I literally, not even a week ago. I just watched the movie. It's still hilarious.
I still have my Dragnet police badge they gave me for the world premiere.
Oh my God! I mean, it's still hilarious. It still like stands up. It's still hilarious. I mean,
I'll have to watch it. And then remember the old guy from Harry Morgan? Wasn't that his name? He was in there. He's from the original Dragnet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he was there that night.
He's the captain.
That's right. He was there that night. I met him, and a lot of people from Saturday Night Live were there. It was an interesting crowd. Yeah, Tom Hanks, of course. He was just young getting started. You know, he was. Yeah,
it's hilarious.
That was a world premiere for MTV. Us and the Fabulous Thunderbirds.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
That's awesome, man. God, that is just so amazing. What a life, Terry.
Well, that's cool.
What a life.
Thanks to people like that, Delbert was just a cool guy. He took me in. He liked me. He still does. He's on my new album.
Oh, really?
I have a song I wrote with him in mind. It's a fun tune called "Went for One and Stayed Till 2." Does a little bit about me and Delbert back in the day. And it's all about that, really, just having fun. We had so much fun, and I've been down to Mexico at his place a couple of times, and it's he's just a wonderful guy. He's a true inspiration. Awesome. I mean, he's almost 80. He won a Grammy this last year. You know, I mean, he's done it all. You know.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Well, don't forget to talk a little bit before we go here about your album. Okay, so let's tell people when it comes out.
Yeah, I believe the release date's October 23rd, so we're getting closer to it.
Okay, October 23rd. I think this episode comes out probably like 10 days is my guess.
Cool.
That's usually so it'll come out right before that. So, yeah, so so October 23rd, put that on your calendar.
Yeah.
Right now, make sure you can get it. But the song is already out, right? You can listen to the title. Two singles are already out right now.
2 singles, exactly. A couple little sneak peeks to the album. The first one is called Callin All Hearts. That's my Texas release.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And it's we're excited about that. And then Rebels and Angels, the title cut, the duet with Patty Loveless. That's out. You can find it. And I'm easy to find. And just start looking for Terry McBride music on most places. And I'm out there and love hearing from everybody. That's been the fun part of this little journey is my crowd consists of these original fans and then a lot of younger fans who grew up listening to their parents' music or whatever. And it's made for a a dedicated little group, and then getting some
That's
new
awesome.
fans along the way has been great. It's just been fun, and starting to see that grow as time goes by, and this new music has really helped. So it's been fun.
No, that's awesome. And you're coming out, right? Putting out your solo album. You're
Yeah.
gonna start playing. This
Yeah.
is gonna be a whole nother journey, right? For you.
We're already booking dates slowly in 2021. I am doing a cool thing out in Abilene, November 5th, and that's with Robert Earl Keen and
Oh, wow.
a buddy of mine from Nashville, Win Varble, and it's put on by Mark Powell. It's called the Storyteller Series. They do it every year. And Mark also has that big festival they do in Abilene every year, like Outlaws and Legends Festival. It's very popular. But anyway, it's sort of a songwriter portion of that sort of festival. They sell it out every year. It's a great opportunity. And
Awesome.
I'll be doing that sort of as a one-off, but also going to visit a few stations that are playing the song early. I just want to kind of go by and see a couple people that want to meet, and that's easy enough to do, sort of one-on-one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's all good, man. All good. I appreciate you, man, very much for having me on. I really enjoyed this conversation with you, man.
Me too, man.
How long
Me
we've been
too,
talking,
Terry.
but it's
I don't
probably
know.
longer than you need, but I really enjoyed
I don't
it.
care. I don't care. This was amazing, Terry.
Oh.
Yeah, this is why I love doing this. This is it. Our listeners are going to love this, man. Our listeners are going to love this conversation.
Well, you're good. You're good at it. It's a conversation, which it should be, and that's kind of able to dig out some things. I had nothing planned, really. You did a great job of just kind of helping guide me what you're interested in, and hopefully some of this comes off as interesting to somebody else.
I think so, man. Look, we took a journey. It's inspiring. You talked about your album. You got told great stories, funny stories. This is exactly. I wish every guest was like this. This is what I'm going to expect now, Terry. You set the bar high. So anytime a guest doesn't perform well, I'm going to say, listen, you should really check out the Terry McBride episode for next time.
Yeah, I enjoyed that guy, but he's no Terry McBride. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, Terry, I wish you the best with this new album, man. I can't tell you enough, how excited I am for you, man. And, just really excited. And again, everything I've heard so far is just absolutely amazing, and can't wait for the album to come out.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I hope to see you down in Texas one day. That'd be great.
That would be awesome, man. Absolutely. Anytime. I'm in Austin, baby. You're here. I'll take you out. I'm a food guy. I'm a chef, so I'll take you out.
I know it. Yeah, I've read a little bit of your history and all that you've done around the world, and the food that's been involved. And yeah, that's very cool what you've been up to. And then you've landed somehow there. Are you originally from Texas or no?
Yeah, man. I grew up in the Dallas area, actually. I went to school there, graduated high school. Well, I moved to Texas when I was 6 months old. So I'm a Texan, right? I consider myself a Texan.
That's it. That's about as early as you can get started there, man.
Yeah, right. That's exactly.
I have a lot of family in that Dallas-Fort Worth area, Crowley, Grapevine, Irving.
Yeah, Grapevine. That's where Grapevine, Colleyville is the school district I went to.
Wow, really? Yeah, my cousins are from there. My aunt, Sue, my father's sister still lives out there. I have a cousin who lives out near Justin. My other aunt lives in Granbury.
Yeah,
so
know them all.
They're all through that area.
Yeah,
but very cool.
Well, listen, again, Terry, I wish you the best of the rest of your day too, and the rest of the week here. And we'll be in touch when the episode comes out. We'll send you guys some links and stuff and all that. And really appreciate it, man.
Hey, we'll help get the word out on this end. That's a cool thing for us. And my PR team is really good. And I always like to give them a little follow up after each thing. But you'll get high marks today from me for sure.
Well, that's awesome. We appreciate it, Terry. Again, this was just absolutely amazing. I wish you the best the rest of the day. And just can't wait. Rebels and Angels, guys, October 23rd. Okay, do not forget. That's important. And I'm gonna give the whole spiel in the intro too. So don't worry. I'm gonna set you up, right?
Hey,
big time.
Thanks to you. You were thinking about it. I was completely off on whatever story, but I forgot I have an album that we might want to bring up at some point.
Listen, I was just a guest on a podcast last week, and I totally forgot to talk about my own podcast the whole time. I just didn't even bring it to the very end. I was like, oh, shit. Oh, yeah. Listen, by the way.
That's when you're having a good time, man.
Yeah, exactly.
not all about the business. That's a good thing.
Well, this gets people to know more about you, and then they'll listen to the album on their own, right? What are you gonna, so
yeah, that's great.
That's what it's about. But anyway, Terry, I won't take up your time. Really appreciate it.
Likewise, been a pleasure, and I hope we get to do this again.
Absolutely, brother. Okay, Terry,
right.
Well, be good, my man. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
The Lone Star Plate podcast is produced by Texas Real Food. Go to texasrealfood.com and you can search your city for stores, butchers, restaurants, farmers markets, and more who are using fresh, artisanal, organic sources. It's a fun site that brings all natural options all together. I hope you enjoyed this episode. For more information, go to thelonestarplate.com. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. Until next time.